All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Approaching Your Future podcasts with your host, Dana, where we take steps forward towards your goals. And today we'll be discussing 101 for international students. All right. So let's talk a bit about 101 for international students. I'm going to put here a little background. And there we go. All right. All right, everyone. So my name is Dana. I tend to host this podcast, sometimes with a few guests. But today I'm here alone because I want to show you guys some of the extremely important information that you should know if you're going to be studying in the US. All right. So let's go over some websites I've found and some documents that Approach has that are great assets and resources to help you know everything that you need to know, the 101s of being an international student. Now, you might think, Dana, why are you equipped to talk about this? Like, why do you have why do you know about this? Why could you even know about this in any sense? Oh, there we go. That looks better. Um, and the reason why, guys, it's because I'm also an international student. I was an international student in college here in the US, and I graduated. And I think that being an international student is a really unique experience, and only the people that go through it understand what it actually entails. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go over some websites, some Chrome tabs. Let me open right here so we can go over some of the tips. And we're going to start with just plain and simple tips, just so you guys get a bit of knowledge. So this website is talking about top tips for international student. So first and foremost, you need to understand that being an international student means that you need to adjust to the cost of living of the US. Usually, the cost of living in the US is high, okay? It tends to be a bit expensive, more expensive than it would be in Latin America, than it would be elsewhere. I think that maybe it's comparable to Europe, but not even to that extent. Why do I say this? Because many of us have to struggle, for example, with getting a loan or getting a scholarship or finding where to live or even finding a job, because we cannot, as F1 students, we can only work at the school we're studying at, right? We can only work 20 hours on campus. So it's important to understand that, be prepared for that, and if possible, come with a budget set so that you're not overspending. Why is this essential to know as well? Because it's the US and it's a place that is absolutely full of wonderful things. And the moment we arrive here, our eyes go, we want to buy and get everything. But the reality is that we can't. Because if we do, we won't have money for basic things like food and heating and paying for electricity and all of that, right? Of course, it all depends how you're coming to the US. If it's going to college, you will probably be housed on campus. If you're coming to, for example, a place like Approach, you can either go through our housing program, or you could get an apartment nearby. And sometimes that is sometimes even less expensive than college campuses. I'm not gonna lie. I think my college campus in downtown Boston was as or more expensive than living in an apartment in Boston, you know? Um, so it's always good to figure out your housing prior to arriving to the US. Extremely important. Um, have a plan for meals, for grocery shopping or eating out. For example, you allocate a budget of, let's say, like $100 a week for food. And so you say, okay, I'm gonna $30 of those are gonna be for eating out, for going to a restaurant and over the weekend, but the other 70 have to be for groceries for the week or something along those lines. Um, Grocery does tend to be expensive, guys. I would say around 100. I would say 50 to 100 per week. 150 every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. It does tend to be expensive. Of course, it depends on what you're buying, but if you're buying for more people than yourself, then yeah, it would tend to get more expensive. Here are some things that you need to keep in mind. Essentials, tuitions, and fees, of course. So whatever you're going to go study, you have to keep in mind the cost of that. Approach has incredible promotional prices. So I 100% recommend studying here if you would like to learn English or further your business skills or advanced academic skills, or even any test preparation course that we offer. Um, but it's good to keep in mind because colleges here tend to be a bit more expensive. Clothing is important depending on where you're going. When I found myself coming here to Boston, I saw that I had to buy a lot of clothes for the winter. Boots for the winter, gloves for the winter, thermal clothes that go underneath your normal clothes so that you're always uh, heated up. So it is important to have a budget for clothing depending on where you're going. Um, Accommodations means where you're staying. It's important to know where you're going to be staying, how much you're going to pay. Non-essential things that cost here, like haircuts and beauty products. Like if you want to get a haircut, it's probably more expensive than back home. I personally have a haircut in the US maybe like every 6 months because it is expensive. It's maybe for women it's it's $100 plus. I mean, and for men it can be anywhere from 25 to $80. It really depends on what you're getting and where you're getting it, but it does tend to be a bit more expensive. Also keep in mind utilities if you're living in an apartment: gas, electricity, and water. Usually heat is provided in Boston within the monthly rent, but electricity tends to be like $150 to 150 depending on how many people you're living with, how big your house is, your apartment is. Water, at least in most places, it is provided in the rent, but it also some places do make it like a separate thing that you need to pay for. Okay. Sorry, guys, I have my phone on. Anyways, non-essentials here, it says gym membership. There's so many gyms in Boston and everywhere in the US. If you're going to a college, usually they have their gym and you can go there for free. But if you're not going to college, you might have to get a gym membership. Maybe your building has a gym underneath. But if it doesn't, there's gyms that range all the way from 50, $25 even to 150, 200, 250. So you really need to, it depends on how much you go to the gym and what it means to you. Groceries and dining out, I talked about it a bit, guys, but it is important to budget it. I would say around $50 for dining out, depending on where you're living. In Boston, dining out is pretty expensive, and if you want to dine out twice a week, for example, it's going to be $50 or more. Groceries, though, I would allocate around 50 to 150 bucks a week. I mean, 50 to 100 bucks a week, depending on how many people you're feeding. For mobile, telephone, Wi-Fi, TV, all things you need to consider. I have to pay a monthly bill on my phone, monthly bill on Wi-Fi, on my TV provider, and if you have subscriptions, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus, Apple Plus, HBO Max, Peacock. There's so many subscriptions, and that's the beauty of the US, that you have absolutely everything at your disposal. But you need to pick and choose what is best for you to spend on. Okay. My recommendation would be Paramount Plus, though, because Paramount Plus, I'm surprised that not many people use it. It's actually a really good streaming service. Anyways, and Peacock, which is free, also pretty good, has some great shows. Anyways, we're moving forward. Health insurance, extremely important. If you're going to college, it will be part of what you need to get in order to go to college as an international student. You need to pay for health insurance. But if you're not, for example, it tends to be more expensive. Okay. And it is extremely important for you to get health insurance in the US because here, health and all medical services and the healthcare system is really expensive. Okay, so that is super important. On the other hand, I would recommend looking up some, like, there's some websites that offer you coupons to if you don't have health insurance, like Good RX, and it can help you pay, like for example, it can help you pay something that costs 300, you pay 100 or something along those lines. You also have to keep in mind the cost of coming here, whether it is the plane, whether it is the visa application fee and all the process, change of status, all of that costs. Keep in mind books and academic supplies. If you're going to college, textbooks tend to be super expensive, guys. I would recommend buying it used. And I need you guys to trust me on that one because I made that mistake in college. Do not buy them brand new. It is not worth it. If you do, resell it. But you should definitely you go in your Facebook group of your college. You look up what is good, what is, hey, do you have this book? Do you have that book? I want to buy this book, because they're gonna make it cheaper, and textbooks tend to range from 50 to 100 to 150 bucks, and they're yeah, I know, super expensive. So definitely good to keep in mind. Academic supplies as well. Maybe you might need a computer to do your work. Maybe you might need a phone. Maybe you might need a bunch of books or like writing materials and pens, or maybe you need headphones, earphones, whatever you need to make your life easier in order to succeed in school. Um, and then finally, transport. Always good to keep in mind transportation. There's some cities where you need to have a car, for example, like Miami or LA. There's some cities where you only walk and go on public transport, like New York and Boston, where you can walk anywhere and you use the train, the MBTA, which is what we call it, which is like the subway system. You use buses, you can walk, you can get on a bike. Also, it gets cold, so usually you get on the subway. But for example, you gotta consider Uber. Uber tends to be pretty expensive in Boston, pretty expensive in New York, because people are not used to having cars, So a lot of people are getting Uber, so it's pretty much in demand. It's important to know the cost of that. Um, the next thing I will say here, um, ways to develop your language skills. Approach. That is my first answer. If you want to develop your language skills, come study, or even before coming here, join our free English conversation classes, because they are completely free. They are there for you. The idea is for you to use them to better your English wherever you are. And if you want to come to the US to study, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get there with no language? Then you go into our free English conversation classes and approach usa.org, and you join them and you start learning just a little bit before you get here. At least you can ask for directions or a cup of tea in the breakfast place or something. Here there's other recommendations. TV in English is super good. I've already done that in the past, but it helps you a lot. Listening to podcasts in English helps you a lot. Listening to music in English is great. It helps you so much. Change your phone to English. That also is a great. Um, the next thing I'll say is join a society or club. This is a great tip. Why? It's hard to make friends, guys. It's hard to make friends in places that are new to us, adapt to a whole new culture. That tends to be hard. But the best way to find a community is to put yourself in that community. You cannot expect people to make you part of it. I mean, be nice, but that cannot be something that you expect. You need to put yourself where you want to be. If you want to have I don't know, you want to have more, you come here, you want to have more friends of your culture, then find a society or a club in the city that has that. You have to, it's the best way to meet new people, to put yourselves in different hobbies, in different classes, different clubs. You want to learn salsa, meet people through salsa. You want to learn how to DJ, get on a DJ school and learn how to DJ. There's so many things you can do. Not only that build a resume. Let's say you're in a club for a magazine. That's experience. That is experience that you can use in your resume for the future, both if you're in a language school or if you're in a college. And it is important to immerse yourself in the culture. Okay. You have to understand what the norms are in the US and you need to be open-minded to try to be respectful of it and understand it. Sometimes they might be different from you, but that is what comes with wanting to be part of being an international student in the you have to be able to adapt. And this is why we are amazing, because we are able to adapt, because this is a choice that we make when we come here, right? So for example, check out the local scene, check out the clubs, check out the restaurants, the different owners in your neighborhood. Meet different perspectives that are completely different from you. It's always super, super important. And finally, the last here is build a strong network of support, which is the last one I'm going to go with. Okay. Actually, I'm going to talk a bit about laws as well. But build a strong network of support is super important. If you build it locally, it's going to grow and grow. And always keep in touch with the people that you love back home. It's always important to carry them with you. It's not, sometimes people think that moving from one country to another means you just like forget your previous life, but no. Okay, that life is the world is very small, guys, and believe me, I have a lot of experience with this, where I've lived in many countries, and somehow somehow I find half of the people that I've met in other countries here in the US with me. And so it's very nice. So always keep your family and your friends from back home close. It doesn't have to be separate lives. Okay. Finally, which the last one I'll talk about is familiarize yourself with local laws. This is super important. You need to know your rights as a non-immigrant visa holder. You need to follow the visa condition a lot about at approach. When you enter the school and in orientation, you need to know your rights, and you need to comply with the regulations of the place you're living in. Okay, there's some things that are legal here that are not legal in Arizona, New York, or California, or Colorado. Like every place in the US, every state might have something different. So it's important to know them, because you need to comply with local regulations. All right, so stop sharing this tab, because I want to go forward and show you another part of this, which is something that we share here at Approach, which is our welcome guide. And here we talk a bit about US culture and customs. Okay. Why is this important to know? It's a 101 for international students, for you to already have in mind a bit of what the culture is in the US. Okay. Personal space. In the US, people are not touchy as we are in Latin America. Okay. It's not here to greet someone with a kiss or hug them right away. It's some people here really respect their personal space. So it's important to ask, hey, would you mind if I hug you? Hey, can I give you a kiss? A kiss on the cheek? Once you already know them well, then that's more acceptable, but it is important that. And so how do you greet others? Usually shake hands. Women between women, they tend to hug. Men and men and women tend to first they greet hands like this. That is usually the most common. And so it's important for you to know. Sometimes there's like social kissing, which is like, but it's not that common between Americans. So it's important for you to know how to greet others. And you usually state your name. Hi, my name is Dana. How are you? What's yours? Nice to meet you. Okay. Hi, my name is Dana. Nice to meet you. That's how you do it. What else can we talk about? Yeah, form of address. So some people are called Mr., Mrs., Doctor, Professor. If you have a teacher, you call them teacher. If you're in college, you call them professor. Sometimes people have an MD, medical degree, and you call them doctor, usually with their last name. Sometimes professors let you call them with the first name, which is totally fine. Teachers do too, but usually you call with the last name. So like, let's say the person is called James Bond. You call them Mr. Bond or Dr. Bond or Professor Bond. Mrs. is usually for women. Okay, there's different miss. There's Mrs. is when the woman is married. Miss is when she is not married. So Miss Khan, for example, which would be my name, or Miss Dana Khan. Um, Appropriate dress and hygiene. So students generally dress casual for classes here. It's more common outside of the US for you be wearing uniforms. Privates also wear uniforms. But here people tend to wear casual clothing for class, jeans, shirt, as long as they're tidy, as long as nothing is like extremely out there, it's usually acceptable. Okay. Um and everyone is meant to treat other with respect. So you have to be respectful of what people wear. There's a lot of diversity here. Hygiene. So people are people tend to be very hygienic in the US. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're very clean. Um, Similar to almost everywhere, I'm guessing, but it's not super common to wear like such strong perfumes and colognes. Um, I don't really care about that. I wear my perfume because I love it, but but it's important, and like to smell good, to wear deodorant, to have clean clothing. These are things that are valuable here. Eye contact. Important to make eye contact when talking to someone. If not, it's a sign of disrespect if you're looking down, or it's a sign of lying. So it's important to look at the person in the eyes when you're talking to them. Punctuality. General rule, Americans tend to be extremely punctual. That is very different from Latinos, let's say. So tend to, for example, you have a class at 8 a.m. Try to be there at 7:45, 7:50. Try to be there a few minutes before. It's always the safe rule. Um, and the meaning of no. So that's pretty important in the US. No is no. Okay. And people tend to be, and anywhere, no is no. And we mean it in every way. But um, it is sometimes in Latin America and other places, we take it as kiddingly. And I'm not talking about any like specific situation. I'm talking like, I don't know, let's say someone's like, hey, like stop I don't know, like stop calling me like that, like whatever you're calling them. Let's say you're calling them like you're calling my name is Dana and they're calling me Danita, and I'm like, no, I don't like that, stop calling me like that, no. And the person, maybe you might be like, I'm just kidding, it's just like I love you, it's like a nice name. And I'm like, no. Usually you'll take it. That no is a no. Okay, so it's better not to pick on it. Some people have their own ways of seeing life, and you need to respect everyone's views. Um, and so let's see what else we got here. Tipping. Tipping is super important in the US. Waiters and like generally restaurants make their money from tipping. So it's important to tip up to 20%, 25% if you can. 18 to 20% to 15 to 20% tends to be the regular in most places. Super important to do. And also just in general with other things like bellhops or people carrying your luggage, or what very dressers, for example, might want like 15% of tip or things like that. So it's important to know that tipping in restaurants here specifically need it. Okay, sometimes it's included in the bill, but usually it isn't, and that is what the waiters make money from. So be generous if you can. Okay. People here also like to negotiate a lot. You of course you need to understand in what situation negotiation is acceptable, but it is not part of everything. So like, for example, you cannot go into a store and be like, hey, I'll give you 15 for that, and the price is 80. That doesn't work here. Okay. It also depends what store you're in. Maybe if you're in a thrift store and the cost is 5 and you're like, damn, I got $4, would you take $4? And the person might. But if you're in like a design store, or you're like an Apple, no one's gonna take less than what the price should be. Okay. Or what the price is, I mean. Smoking. Be careful with smoking in prohibited places, but in general rule of thumb, some people, I mean, there's smokers everywhere, It's not as common as it is maybe in Latin America or Europe. So it's just don't do it in closed spaces. Do it outdoors, and be respectful of others around you. You know, and it is not acceptable in the U.S. to throw your trash into the street or onto the sidewalk. So please throw everything where it's supposed to go and recycle if you can. Okay. So those are a few customs and a few tips of being an international student and understanding a bit of the U.S. culture. And so now that we're here, you know a bit about 101 of being an international student in the U.S. What you need to take care of, what you need to keep in mind, um, what you need to keep in mind about the culture. You're ready. You're ready to take on the next step. If you want to study here, research what you want to do. If you wanted to learn English, Approach is a perfect place for you. Has incredible teachers and a lot of and a big international community that would be like a family, to help you out. So super, super recommended. If you want to download our welcome guide, it's very, very easy and it is available for absolutely anyone on the internet. So let me do this with you really quick. I'm gonna literally walk you through how to get to the welcome guide. So you put approachusa.org, okay, and then you go onto our website. It's taking a bit longer to load, but we're gonna get there soon. And now we go to Study Abroad Guide to the left. And that's it. Now all you have to do is fill this out and download the Welcome to the US guide, Welcome to Approach guide. It's a perfect study abroad guide for you to understand everything that entails studying in the US as an international student. So I super recommend this guide. All you have to do is put your first name, your last name, your email, the country, and how you found this website, which would be through YouTube, through me. And then you can say, are you a student? No, yes, and you download that guide. And that will give you the best tips on what you should know when studying in Boston with Approach or studying in the US as an international student. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining Approaching Your Future with your host Dana, where we take steps forward towards your goals, which you guys already know. We like to talk about different cultural aspects of living in the US. And we're gonna have really cool podcasts coming up, so I hope you guys stay tuned and join. And if you have any questions or need advice from Approach or would like to get to know a bit more information about the cost of Approach or what it's like to study in the US, just in general advice and tips, by all means follow us on Instagram, approach_USA. I'm the one there all the time and happy to help with anything. So definitely follow us on Instagram, approach_USA, and I'll be happy to help with anything you might need. Okay? So thank you for joining, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.